Hey, what's up guys, my name is Cherno and welcome to episode 6 of the game programming series. So, last time we sent our first little bit of data between our client and our server. It was pretty exciting. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat. And this time we're actually going to move on to sending more serious data, and specifically our actual serialization format, right? So ASCII databases, I believe that's what we call them. I should really know this, but yes, ASCII database, right? So we're going to send those over the network today. That is our goal. So it's going to be quite simple to do that because we've got pretty much everything we need to actually make that happen. If we take a look at our actual database kind of format and like in terms of our API, what it can do, then you will see that we have this function here called getBytes, right? Which just gets us kind of the whole bytes. I mean, it writes all of our bytes into this destination. And you can see that the destination is actually a byte array, right? Which is perfect because if you look at how we're currently sending stuff from our client, we're literally just typing in, let's see, where did we actually send that? That would be in game, I think, right? Or did we send it from somewhere else? Client.connect would have sent it, I think. Send connection packet, yeah. So we literally just do connection packet.getBytes, and that's how we actually send data. So we've already written this send data function, so it's actually going to be really simple to transition that into the thing that we want to send. So specifically what I'll do just to make this kind of a bit easier and extend the API is I'll quickly write a function here that's called public void send, and it'll be an overload that actually takes in a database. So we can just give it an ASCII database. And it will just extract the bytes itself, right? Just so that we don't have to extract the byte array ourselves. That being said, I do want to quickly mention that if you have your project set up correctly, it should work. It should automatically recognize this ASCII database. If it doesn't for whatever reason, you can always just make sure that this rain project, if you go to properties, and then the build path, make sure that Rain Cloud Serialization is actually set under the required projects on the build path. If it's not, you can always hit add and then add the serialization project if you've got it currently in here. If you've exported it as a jar or something, then you can also kind of set that up if you like by just going into the build path and then libraries and then adding an external jar or a jar that's in the project. And then you can kind of link that in and it'll work basically the same way. I wouldn't recommend that though. I'd recommend just having the code here because that way if we change everything, or if we change everything, if we change anything, then we will like just easily just be able to, I mean, like we won't have to do anything, right? As in if I change something in here and then just run my game again, it's going to use the updated code and it's going to be all fine. Whereas if you're kind of running it as an external library, as an external jar file or something, then you'll have to rebuild that jar file with the changes, which is just going to get really annoying. So instead of doing it manually, just link the project in and you'll be fine. And so all this will really have to do, excuse me, all this will really have to do is actually construct that byte array. So basically if we just do database.write, in fact, not database.write, we need to create it first. So we'll do byte data equals new byte database.getSize. That should give us the size in bytes of how many, of how large this database is. And then we can call database.getBytes. Destination, of course, will be data. Pointer will be 0 because we don't want it to, we want it to start writing from the first byte in this array. And that's it, right? And then, of course, we'll have to call send with that data that we've just gotten. So that should be pretty straightforward. And that, of course, should send our ASCII database. Now, when it comes to the receiving end of things, and we'll of course quickly write a test for this. If we go back to game and we connect the client, let's just say that's successful, whatever. We'll deal with actually setting this up next episode, I think. I just want to set up all of our kind of sending and receiving methods first. What we'll do is we'll create an ASCII database, db equals new. Oh, in fact, I think we've probably got one already, don't we? Yes, we've got this thing. So we save and then I guess we load when we load the, yeah, here it is, set size. Okay, so we've got this thing here. Let's just grab that, right? This is just gonna be a bit more exciting, I think, loading it from a file first and then sending it to the server. So, and then we'll do something like client.send DB. Okay. So you can see that the way I'm kind of designing this API is that it is really, really simple. Okay. All we want to do is again, we've got this RC database, which is basically like a kind of a virtual object kind of that contains everything that we want. And then all we really have to do is just hit client.send DB and that's it. It'll be shipped off to the server. We will probably end up, I mean, if we have to, we'll end up kind of extending all of this to make it a bit more powerful and a bit more flexible and probably work a little bit better with like stuff like priorities and, various other things that we can do to ensure the data is actually delivered, when required and stuff like that. But for the most part, it is actually going to be this simple. So just don't overthink this whole multiplayer thing. It's actually really easy to make a basic kind of multiplayer. So that's what we'll do for now to get the ball rolling down the hill. And then in the server side of things, this is where all of this stuff happens. So we get this packet and then we decide to process it. The best way to quickly check, by the way, you can see that what I'm doing here is I'm saying that if the string equals ASCII DB, then blah, 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 we can serialize. That's kind of exactly what we really want to do. In fact, I've already written this code here. I didn't know we did that. When did I write this code? Oh, this was an example, I think. Yeah. But anyway, I didn't even know we had this. So it turns out we've already basically written the code that I wanted to write this episode. So instead we'll talk about it, I guess. But you can see that the header of our serialization format is ASCII DB, right? Those bytes. I keep forgetting this. I'm pretty sure that this would be 8 bytes because Java, I think, uses 2-byte chars. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, I believe that this test should work. If it doesn't, we can always just do it another way. But anyway, a really good way to check is basically by doing this, right? So we check to see if, I usually wouldn't even write it like this. I mean, this is kind of risky. What I would do instead is actually define the bytes myself. So I'd be like, actually define numbers rather than characters, just because again, that can be a bit, in this case, of course, this is actually a string, meaning I think it'll be like UTF-16 or something in this case, which will, again, might not be what we want. And also it means our header is 8 bytes and not 4. So I might rewrite that in a minute, but I do want to see first what we actually get on the server. So assuming that is correct, we will, of course, deserialize our database. We'll dump the packet regardless. This is not going to work properly for this, I suspect, because it's going to just try and create a string out of the data, which is not going to work out, as in we're not going to get the full dump because there'll be zeros throughout our database, which will terminate the string. But we'll leave it in there anyway, just for fun. Can't hurt. I mean, it's certainly not going to crash, I don't think. And then, so yes, we've got this database and we will try and process it. So, I mean, I don't know, for now, I'll just do something like received database. This is going to be a really easy kind of way to just check to make sure that it's actually succeeded here. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like this, I mean, the length is 4 in this case, but really like the length is probably going to be not 4. It's probably going to be 8. I mean, unless that's the length of the string and not the number of bytes. Yeah. So, I mean, this might just give us RC and not ASCII DB. So it might be 8 bytes. Let's check. I like how casual this is. That's okay. So running the server, we should probably print something like started server on port 8192. But anyway, and then we'll run our game, and so it should send that database. In fact, here's an easy way to check. Let's put a breakpoint in client.send. Let's run the game or debug the game. We'll switch to this perspective, whatever. Okay, so it's also, we can note that the server has indeed received, where's my debug thing? The server has indeed received that connection packet. Cool, because of course we sent it up here. Now we're down here in the client.send. Let's step into that. I'll go back to here real quick. Where are we? In it. So we'll step into that. Let's see how big that is. 83 bytes, it looks like, or 84 bytes. We'll retrieve the bytes from that. Let's check what the bytes are. Okay, that seems reasonable. So it looks like it is 1 byte per char, apparently. Which is okay. I mean, that's not what I expected, but whatever, I'll roll with that. And then of course we'll go to the server side, and I guess we'll just step through this because I want to see exactly what happens. So in this listening, we're in socket.receive. Let's just put a breakpoint on process over here, and resume the client. Okay, there we go. We have hit the breakpoint in the server under process. So we'll try and step into that. Where are we? This is the game. So the data that it receives from the packet is blah, blah, blah. You can see it does have our header though. So if we step through this, whatever, we have the port, we have the address of this, which of course is just going to be localhost. Let's see if this check works. Amazing, it did. Okay, so it looks like it is 1 byte chars. Huh, interesting. I thought they were 2 byte or something. I'm not sure. Maybe it is variable. Maybe it depends on what you actually specify. Either way, I'm not like this method. I think is a bit dodgy. But anyway. We deserialized the database, which luckily worked. And of course, we can now see that on the server side, we now have this ASCII database, which didn't crash, luckily. And what that has is one object. It's an ASCII object. It's got 3 fields, 3 ASCII fields. Anyway, this is going to be a bit difficult to actually read because it's just bytes. So we'll probably write a function now to actually dump the ASCII database the same way that we just dumped the raw packet. In fact, what was the raw packet, I wonder? Anyway, so we process, which of course says that we received our database, and that's it, we're done. So let's resume that. Let's stop both of our applications and let's take a look at the server because I actually want to see what happened there. Okay, so you can see the contents were a bit weird. It looks like it did actually print the entire database, which is a bit surprising. But you can see that obviously printing it as a string is a bit weird. And we get this, but you can see that it's called screen. It contains resolution. The resolution, I think is the name of the object, and then width, height, and scale are the actual values. Okay, so roughly it is our database correctly received. Let's actually write something now to dump it, because that'll be really useful for debugging. We've got dump packet, so I'll probably make another private function here called dump ASCII database. I actually might just like call it dump, and we'll do the same here because I mean we might as well just use the power of overloading to just have the same function name but with various parameter types. So ASCII database, let's grab this. I'm going to extend these because they're clearly not long enough. Should do that here as well, just to be neat. We are not dumping the packet in this case, so we're not going to worry about the address or anything like that. In fact, what we're really going to do is just kind of go through and, I mean, we're going to say that it's an ASCII database. We're also going to, I think, just basically iterate through like every object and every field and then just kind of print that stuff in every string and stuff like that. So we'll say, I don't want to use tabs here. ASCII database. That's roughly in the middle, right? I'm not going to measure it. I don't really care that much. And we'll have one of these at the end as well. Okay, so then I guess things that are important, right? The name. So database.getName. I guess we'll print the size as well. I might just do like a little, just prefix here that kind of says name, just so that we know. Otherwise we'll just get like a random thing that says what the size is. Just get like a random number and we'll be like, what's that? This way we'll be like, ah, that's the size because we said it was. Okay, so I guess object count is what it's called, right? Database.objects.size. And then we'll iterate through them. So we'll say for ASCII object in, this isn't C#, for ASCII object, and that's in database.objects. We'll again print the name and the size. So we have object.getName, object.getSize, whoops. And I guess we'll get the field count for the object. We need to like indent this as well, I guess. Let's see how we probably want to handle this. I imagine maybe we'll have like an extra print line or something. And then I guess we'll say, do we just want to say object? Do we want to say object? I guess so. We'll say tab and then object. This is some exciting code I'm writing right now, by the way. I know you guys are just on the edge of your seats. Yeah, debug code isn't particularly exciting, but it's also not boring. Like, I really like writing debug code. It's nice. I like writing like code that helps me develop, because it kind of, I mean, on one hand, you could argue it's avoiding the problem of actually making the thing work by just continuously writing debug code, but also it does make it a lot easier to kind of add things and definitely a lot easier to debug if things go wrong. And of course, things will inevitably go wrong, especially because we're so early in development here. But we basically have our object. I'll have a blank line at the end of this. So we have, and then we have a field count is what I meant, obviously. And that'll be object dot fields dot size. And then we have a for RC field in object dot fields. We have two tabs here. Oops. Called field. Import this, I guess. I guess we'll have the name and the size again. Replace this with field. Okay, so this is where it gets a bit interesting. Because what we're realistically going to have to do is, and I'm just looking at code that I've written earlier for this, which you can get, by the way, on the GitHub branch called multiplayer if you are a Patreon. Patreon, of course, .com/the Cherno is the way you can become a patron. Anyway, so that code's already written, but I'm just looking at this and I'm seeing if there's a better way to do this. Probably not. But basically, we're just going to remember it gives us our kind of raw data, and then what I ended up kind of doing, and I don't know why I ended up doing this. This is a bit weird. Oh, because I wanted to print the raw data. Huh, that's interesting. We probably don't need to do that now. I don't care that much. But yeah, basically what we're going to have to do is have a little switch on the field type. And then of course, based on the type of that field, since we don't know, and since this is like a dump function that really just dumps the data anyway, we're going to say case type dot byte, for example, and then that's just going to be, we'll make a string here called data or something, and then we'll just do data plus equals field dot get byte. Okay, so we're still kind of like, this data is a string, so we're still kind of just appending it to a string, which will of course convert it to a string. But we'll basically have to do that for all the types. So the types that we've got here are byte, short, char, integer, long, float, byte, short, char, integer, long, float, short, get char, get integer, get long, I think it's just get int, I guess. Yep, get float, get double, and get boolean, I guess. That's probably all the types we have. Double, get boolean. Cool. All right, and then we can print that, of course. So data plus data, and I think that's two tabs we had there. And then we'll just have a blank line. All right, so that is how we print fields inside objects. The other things that we need to care about, I believe, so are just like strings and stuff. So we can print like strings and stuff. I don't even know if do we send strings? Let's see. Like as in, we just got like 3 ints. I might not bother with that now. But if we were to run this, hopefully we'll get something that looks decent. after all this work. But you can see I've just written something that's just going to really easily kind of just make sure that first of all, we've got the complete packet on the server. We can see what it actually is. And just in the future, of course, it'll make development a lot easier. And of course, in the meantime, it also proves that we are receiving the database correctly. So we'll just do something like, yeah, sure, receive database, and then we'll dump the database. All right, so let's start the server. Rain server, debug as, and then we will also start the client, which is our game. Ooh, we got a, oh no, that's fine. That's a breakpoint. I thought it was an exception. Okay, cool. And we can stop both of them now. So on the server side, we have received a database, and then here is the database. So we have, the name is screen, the size is 84 bytes. It's got one object. Objects that we have, the name is resolution, size is 63 bytes. Field count, we have 3 fields, width, height, and a scale, and their values are 220, 168, and 3, which are reasonable values, they're correct values. Okay, so there you go. I mean, we've successfully managed to transmit a database from the client to the server, and you can see that what we get is indeed correct. So that's perfect. So that's going to wrap up this episode. We're going to have a bit of a shorter one this time. I had a huge one last time, and I'm really trying to keep these as short as possible. But thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Next time we're going to actually move on to you know, sending that connection packet and acknowledging, like basically building a correct connection and making sure that the client is connected to the server. And then from then on, I believe we'll probably just move on to actually managing clients. So the server has this job of having to manage clients, right? Meaning that like it has to actually, you know, make sure clients are still there, make sure clients aren't disconnecting, handle when clients do disconnect and when they do connect. Of course, when a client connects and there's like, when a client connects to the server has to broadcast to all the other clients, you know, hey, this new person is connected, and there's all this stuff to do, of course. And we have to maintain some kind of data structure on the server, which contains all of our clients, right? And all their information so that we know what to send to what. And anyway, it's all over the place. So that's what we're going to do next time. If you want to support the series, you can pledge on patreon.com/the Cherno. If you pledge $5 or more per month, of course, you get access to this repository, which contains all of the individual episodes committed, of course, and that way you get access to all of the source code for the entire series, including season 1. And of course, it just supports the series and makes sure that I can actually keep putting out these videos. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Vroom.